welcome back to Central Cell Online. My name's Tom.
And I'm Beth.
And welcome back to our dining room.
Yes, welcome to you guys if you're streaming in with us this evening. This is our 5th session of our Joseph series of Central Cell Online, and we are being joined by churches from across Aylesbury.
Yeah, welcome you guys if you're watching with us this evening. If you're not watching this right now, or you're watching it after the event but you'd like to get involved with a local youth group, that would be brilliant. We'd love to invite you to do that.
Yeah, you can check out the description below and find links to register with Aylesbury Vale Youth for Christ, and then we can hook you up with a lovely youth group that you can join in with every week.
Yeah, so the plan for Central Cell Online is always to guide you guys through sections of the Bible, because at Aylesbury Vale Youth for Christ we're absolutely certain that when you pick up a Bible, you start reading it, you discover who God is, you discover about Jesus, you discover how to make the most out of your life. And so this evening, as we have been for the past 4 sessions, we're in the book of Genesis, looking at the life of Joseph. So grab a Bible if you got one. A physical Bible is great. Well, it is for people.
We like physical Bibles.
Yeah, because we're old.
Yeah.
But if you want to get a real life one, they do still exist. But if not, you can download the YouVersion app, which is linked in the description, and you can get it on your phone, and everyone will just think you're playing Candy Crush.
So there'll be 3 sections to each evening, and every time there's a section we will hear from a young person reading the Bible passage. We will then hear some thoughts from some young people across the town, and then it'll be over to you guys to discuss it in your groups.
Yeah, and then we always end with 2 distinct things. So the first thing we do is that we give you a chance to think about what we've been looking at and what might have stuck out for you, and then the other thing is that we always give the youth groups a chance to pray together. But if you don't normally pray, or you've not really been into church before and this is all kind of new to you, then don't worry at all, it's all pretty chilled out.
Yep, so Central Cell always starts with an icebreaker, so here it is now.
I've been involved in a few games of human buckaroo.
For me, the best practical joke is always scaring someone and jumping out of them.
I've probably played a lot, but ones that I remember are probably on my family, as we've been in lockdown and most of our time has been with our family.
So basically, if someone falls asleep, you try and balance as many objects on them as you can without waking them up.
I do this numerous times to my family, and we do it to each other.
So I have been trying to scare them a lot around the house, and even when they're in the car.
So you can start with really light objects like crisp packets, and you can sort of build your way up to the point you end up sort of balancing like books onto them.
It's always funny, and we always try to get each other back.
Yeah, I don't think they're very fond of me doing that, but it's very funny and hilarious.
Yeah, that's quite fun.
Welcome back. So I feel like if I put a crisp packet on your face while you're asleep, you just immediately be like, ah, what's that? Get off. I would lose every time.
You have to try it.
Yeah, maybe I will. Put it on TikTok. So what's the best practical joke you've ever
Well,
done?
I can't really think of when I've done a practical joke, but I do remember loving a whoopee cushion when I was younger. Like, that is never old. That is always funny.
Have you ever successfully done it? So someone genuinely sits down and goes, "What the heck? It wasn't me."
I don't know. I hope that's happened in real life.
Oh yeah,
So
that's
good.
Right, why are we here again? Yes, we are looking at Joseph in Genesis. So grab a Bible if you've got one. And the reason it'd be really useful to be looking at the words on the screen, then have them to look at afterwards, is because when we did the Ephesians series last time, we were looking at a letter, so it's a lot shorter, so there's kind of less verses to do at a time. But the reason we do longer readings with the Genesis story is because it is quite a big story, and we want you to get all the details and know exactly what's going on.
Yes, so we've had to miss out chapter 43 because we haven't got enough time to do everything, but you might want to read it another time. It's a good chapter. So we're joining the story where Joseph is really putting his brother's integrity to the test, but they still don't know who he is. So here's Millie.
Joseph's silver cup. When his brothers were ready to leave, Joseph gave these instructions to his palace manager. Fill each of their sacks with as much grain as they can carry, and put each man's money back into his sack. Then put my personal silver cup at the top of the youngest brother's sack, along with the money for his grain. So the manager did as Joseph instructed him. The brothers were up at dawn and were sent on their journey with their loaded donkeys. But when they had gone only a short distance and were barely out of the city, Joseph said to his palace manager, "Chase after them and stop them. When you catch up with them, ask them, 'Why have you repaid my kindness with such evil? Why have you stolen my master's silver cup, which he uses to predict the future? What a wicked thing you have done.'" When the palace manager caught up with the men, he spoke to them as he had been instructed. "What are you talking about?" the brothers responded. "We are your servants and would never do such a thing. Didn't we return the money we found in our sacks? We brought it all back all the way from the land of Canaan. Why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If you find this cup with any one of us, let that man die, and all the rest of us, my lord, will become your slaves." "That's fair," the man replied, "but only the one who stole the cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go free." They all quickly took their sacks from the backs of their donkeys and opened them. The palace manager searched the brothers' sacks from the oldest to the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. When the brothers saw this, they tore their clothing in despair. Then they loaded their donkeys again and returned to the city.
Cool stuff. Thank you so much, Millie. We'll be hearing from Millie again this evening. She's doing the readings for us. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hear from some young people answering the questions. We've got Toby and Thomas and Lucy, who we saw a second ago, and then we're going to throw it over to you guys to discuss in your groups.
Yeah, we designed the questions so that one is pretty straightforward, the second one's a little bit harder, and then the third one might seem impossible, but it's good to have a go anyway.
Yes, and remember, if you're watching this on a premiere and you're having a really good discussion and the time's ticking down and you want to keep talking about what you're talking about, feel free just to pause and ignore us and come back to us later.
Yeah, you don't have to answer all the questions, but your youth leader will guide you with what you need to do.
Yeah, so here we go. Chance to think through this first little bit of Genesis in your groups.
Personally, I don't think it is ever acceptable to lie.
That's quite tough.
I mean, no, I don't think it is, especially for sort of the big, straightforward black and white lies.
I definitely think in some circumstances you should tell a lie.
In Exodus 2016, it says you must not testify against your neighbour.
I think lies can hurt so many people, everyone involved. So no.
Like maybe, for example, like your birthday party is coming up and you want to keep it a secret from your mum or dad.
Which doesn't give any wiggle room to use stuff like white lies.
But then white lies can be really tricky because they can seem really small and harmless.
And you don't want to tell them and ruin it for them. But then in some other cases, it's probably totally wrong and could lead into a pit you couldn't fall out. But yeah, it depends really.
And often kind sometimes. And so that's really difficult to know whether that's right or wrong.
Hi, welcome back. So we're thinking about lies. What are your thoughts on lies?
Yeah, I kind of see it's not always straightforward, because there is some stuff, like Thomas says, there's stuff that it's nice to keep to yourself until you reveal it, but that's more like a surprise.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that does it for me is, like, one of the things that Jesus says in John is that when the devil lies, sorry to go a bit heavy, but when the devil lies, he speaks his native language, which makes me think, oh man, if biblically the native speech of the devil is lies, then it seems to me that we should, even though it's not straightforward, we should do our best to hate lies as often as we possibly can, because they come from such like destructive places. Yeah.
So we are going to move on to our next section. We've skipped the next bit of chapter 44, which is where Joseph demands that his younger brother stays in prison, and his brothers are pleading with him to show the mercy, and they still don't know who he is. But here is Millie picking up from chapter 45.
Yeah, I should also say this bit goes a bit weird because I must have I don't think I told Millie the right thing, so about 2 minutes in she totally freezes for like 20 seconds while I display the text that I didn't tell her to say. So sorry about that, Millie, totally my fault. But when it freezes, don't freak out. It's just the text will come up and then Millie continues after I've covered my bum.
Joseph reveals his identity. Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, "Out, all of you." So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him. A word of it quickly carried to the Pharaoh's palace. "I am Joseph," he said to his brothers. "Is my father still alive?" But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realise that Joseph was standing there in front of him. "Please, come closer," he said to them. So they came closer. And he said again, "I am Joseph, your brother. whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset, and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither ploughing nor harvesting. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive, and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of this entire palace and the governor of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and tell him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me a master all over the land of Egypt. So come down to me immediately. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you can be near me with all your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and everything you own. I will take care of you there, for there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise you, your household, and all your animals will starve. Then Joseph added, look, you can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that I really am Joseph. Go tell my father of my honoured position here in Egypt. Describe for him everything you have seen, and then bring my father here quickly. And they left Egypt and returned to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. Joseph is still alive, they told him, and he is governor of all the land of Egypt. Jacob was stunned at the news. He couldn't believe it. But when they repeated to Jacob everything Joseph had told them, and when he saw the wagons Joseph had sent to carry him, their father's spirits revived. Then Jacob exclaimed, it must be true. My son Joseph is alive. I must go and see him before I die.
Well, I definitely think everyone deserves forgiveness.
Does anyone deserve forgiveness?
Yes, I do believe that Joseph's brothers deserved forgiveness.
I think even though they've done that, I think they still should have been forgiven.
It's not necessarily for them, but for Joseph, so that he could grow as a person.
I mean, no, I don't think they do. What they did and the chain of events that they triggered was really bad for Joseph.
Probably to the surprise of them meeting him, as Pharaoh must have been quite a shock to them, but I think Joseph was guided by God to then forgive them as well.
Because it is a lot harder to grow as a person if you have that chip on your shoulder.
But I think that's what makes it so beautiful about the fact that Joseph did forgive them.
And I think that it was in God's plan for Joseph to forgive his brothers so that he could supply them with food and care for them.
Because they really, really didn't deserve it.
Welcome back. So, what do you think about the forgiveness thing?
well. I think this idea of forgiveness actually being about what's best for you is interesting. In that, you know, if you live life not forgiving people, it does you a lot more damage probably than the person that you're not forgiving.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, cool. So we're picking up now from Genesis chapter 50. This is right at the end of the book, so we get to finish the story. And at this point, Jacob, who is Joseph's father, is dead, and all the brothers who chucked Joseph in a well before they knew he was going to be in charge of Egypt and in charge of them, are now freaking out and going, "Oh my days, Joseph's going to kill us because our dad's dead. What are we going to do?" So this is what happens next.
So Jacob's sons did as he had commanded them. They carried his body to the land of Canaan and buried him in a cave in the field of Machpelah, near Mamre. This is the cave that Abraham had bought as a permanent burial site from Ephron the Hittite. Joseph reassures his brothers. After burying Jacob, Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had accompanied him to his father's burial. But now that their father was dead, Joseph's brothers became fearful. "Now Joseph will show his anger and pay us back for all the wrong we did to him," they said. So they sent this message to Joseph. "Before your father died, he instructed us to say to you, 'Please forgive your brothers for the great wrong they did to you, for their sin in treating you so cruelly. So we, the servants of the God of your father, beg you to forgive our sin.'" When Joseph received the message, he broke down and wept. Then his brothers came and threw themselves down before Joseph. "Look, we are your slaves," they said. But Joseph replied, "Don't be afraid of me. Am I God that I can punish you? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save lives of many people. No, don't be afraid. I will continue to take care of you and your children." So he reassured them by speaking kindly to them. The death of Joseph. So Joseph and his brothers and their families continued to live in Egypt. Joseph lived to the age of 110. He lived to see 3 generations of descendants of his son Ephraim, and he lived to see the birth of the children of Manasseh's son, Machir, who he claimed as his own. "Soon I will die," Joseph said to his brothers, "but God will surely come to help you and lead you out of this land of Egypt. He will bring you back to the land he solemnly promised to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear an oath, and he said, "When God comes to help you and lead you back, you must take my bones with you." So Joseph died at the age of 110. The Egyptians embalmed him, and his body was placed in a coffin in Egypt.
Yeah, I definitely think God is able to work things all for good.
God had a plan for every single one of us before we were even born.
Yes, I do. And I find it really comforting, but also confusing.
Yeah, just like in the book of Joseph, he trusted Joseph and he sent him on like a mission, really.
And everything he does for us is for the kingdom of God.
I mean, you look around the world and there's so many bad and hard stuff happening to so many different people. And it can be really hard to know that God's working that for good, because it doesn't seem like it.
And even though all the things have happened to him about his brothers, he had been turned into a very high man in power.
And we seem to spend a lot more time in the hard, in the hurting, in the painful processes than we do in the good.
And I believe that all of that is for the good, even if we can't see that.
It resulted well for all of them in the end.
God can see the bigger picture.
And that's what I think. Yeah, there's the struggle, basically.
Welcome back. So we are moving on to our second to last section, where we give you guys the chance to think about something that you might want to give up, you might want to take up, or you might want to change up. And I got it totally
job.
right.
She smashed it. Yeah. So the reason, as you know, the reason we keep this in is that we wanted to give you just a few minutes to think. What is the stuff that's stuck out for me this evening? What's the stuff that that is especially important? When we read the Bible and we look at it with other people and we start asking questions about life, we think that's one of the key ways that God speaks to us as people. So the Bible itself and the way that we process it with other people. So yeah, that's why we give you this time just to think, what is the stuff that I want to keep in my mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Good.
Cool. So welcome back. So the last thing that we do at Central Cell Online is we always finish with a chance for youth groups to pray together. Now this will be specific to you and your young people and your youth leader. You might just want to pray for one person in your group if they're having a tough time. You might want to pray for each other. You might want to pray for a situation in the world, but your youth leader will lead you through it.
Yeah, if you're not used to praying, that's totally fine. You might want to take this time to just chill, relax, or you might want to give it a try.
Yeah, and remember as well, if time's running out, but you're doing some great praying and you want to just keep doing that and ignore us, please feel free.
welcome back. So that is the end of our session this evening. Yeah, we've had a good time.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Remember, if you are watching this alone for some reason and you want to join with a local youth group, we would love that. You can check in the description below for the registration, how to register, and we'll sort you out with a youth group that you can go to every week.
Yes, next week we have a one-off Easter session, and we will be looking at the Gospel of Luke.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. And remember, if you would like to answer questions for us for Central Cell Online, you totally can. That'd be absolutely brilliant. Contact us in the office or speak to your youth leader, and they'll sort it out for us. That was really smooth, wasn't it?
Yeah, really
but yeah, thank you to Toby and Thomas and Lucy and Millie for doing the readings and answering the questions for us this evening. Have a great week, and we will see you next time.
Bye.